Hello, everybody. It's Ed Rosenberg again, and this evening I am talking to CJ from Amazon Sellers Lawyers. CJ, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Eddie. Thank you very much for having me on the show again.
Okay, now, as you may know, that I picked up something on those rights owner emails, which I myself at the time did not realize how significant it was. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, Ed, I think it was great that you picked up on it. And I think everyone owes you a world of thanks for picking up on it. Okay, it was great. It was great. Amazon has finally, it seems, put some type of gatekeeper or some mechanism in place to deal with right owner complaints or IP complaints without having the complaint withdrawn from whoever asserted it. You know, up until now, you were really stuck. We've had success in a couple of cases that were very unusual. But when an intellectual property right complaint against a seller, they were losing their ASIN or their entire account was being suspended, and your one remedy was getting it withdrawn. You know, which we do every day. But until it's withdrawn, the seller was really stuck. And now it seems Amazon has created an email address where somebody at Amazon is going to look at it and hopefully make decisions as to what is entirely baseless, which is the vast majority of the complaints, versus those issues that there really might be some merit. And I think this is a really, really great opportunity for sellers because it's going to make reinstatements faster and more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, at least you have another avenue other than just waiting for some brand enforcer to respond to your email.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most frustrating thing. And we explain this to clients every day, that while we can reach out to the people that made the complaint the same day someone retains us or the next day, we can't control how long it takes for them to respond. And even in the most baseless, frivolous complaints, where there really is no IP issue at all, we can't control how long it takes to resolve. And Amazon generally was just throwing up their hands and saying, you guys fight it out. But now we can take those same arguments, that same argument that there is no trademark violation, there is no copyright violation, and send those to Amazon itself for them to evaluate. And hopefully this will result in faster reinstatements.
Right. What bothered me more the way Amazon handled it was that they suspended the account and not just blocked the ASIN. Why would they do that for?
You know, I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they put good sellers out of business even temporarily. I mean, right now also it kills sellers. Also, they're erratic with everything. We've had dozens of complaints where only the ASIN or a product line was suspended, and then dozens of others where they knocked out the whole account. So I do see that they're a little more hesitant to suspend the larger accounts where they're making a lot more money than they are the smaller guys. But this is great news. This is really, really great news for sellers because we have been subjected to trademark bullying now for too long. And now this avenue will have the opportunity to show Amazon that the complaint is entirely baseless, because most of them are. Almost every IP complaint that we see is baseless and frivolous.
Now, walk me through. So, like, what would be a reason of why it's frivolous? Like, if you're dealing, let's say, with, for argument's sake, the NHL, and they say that you don't have a right, even though it is authentic, you don't have a right as per my contract with the authorized distributor to sell it on Amazon. To me, that seems legitimate.
Well, it's not. It's not, because if you are buying real NFL, MLB, NHL jerseys, and they have their security tag on it to show it's a real item, you can buy and sell anything you want. It's not like a piece of software where you're selling a license rather than a product. It's a shirt, it's a hat, it's a jersey. So there's nothing in the law that prevents you from buying and selling real products. And they're pretty bad at making these complaints. And if they catch someone selling a counterfeit NHL jersey, I think they have every right to make a complaint. But if you're just not an unauthorized seller, that's nonsense. You can buy it in a stream of commerce. You can sell it in a stream of commerce. And these are the type of issues that we can address to Amazon now directly with the legal arguments pointing out there is no infringement.
Right. Now, what do you say about, like, when Apple, they send infringement notices for using words like I saw on one of the groups, made for iPhone?
There is no infringement doing that either. I don't believe there's any legal basis for it. Some of the descriptions violate Amazon's policy in terms of what you're allowed to write on a detail page. And so we're still going to be stuck with that. But for the nonsense complaints where there is no copyright infringement, where you're not taking someone's verbiage and putting it onto your box or your label, where there is no trademark, where you're not taking, the Apple logo or the McDonald's logo or the Nike and put it on your T-shirt, where you're not claiming something's NFL where it's not, these can help because these allow you to put in legal arguments to point out there is no IP violation. They own the right, but we're not violating anybody's rights by selling these goods. And finally, there's a set of eyes to read those emails over at Amazon.
Right. In a sense, it puts the onus a little bit back on the rights owner complaint.
It puts a lot of onus on them because, when they submit it through the form online, then they get asked the additional questions. They click a box that says the information they're giving is not violating of the perjury laws. I mean, that clicking of the box, I don't think anyone's going to ever get called to the carpet because they clicked the box on Amazon.com to make a complaint. But we can now use that to tell Amazon that they did perjure themselves because there's no violation. Oftentimes, the complaint, when you look at it, it's impossible. It's impossible to be a real violation. And the big news is the greatest thing for sellers, finally, there's another avenue where you're not waiting on the complainant to get back to you. The vast majority of the cases that we handle, we ultimately get that complaint withdrawn because it is baseless and they don't want to have liability and they don't want to put their account on Amazon at issue and the person who wrote it doesn't want to put his or her job on the line. But it often takes time, usually at least a couple of weeks to get the complaints withdrawn. Sometimes it takes a couple of months. And this now provides another avenue to speed up that process tremendously.
Right. So
that's the hope. Again, it just started a day or so ago. You identified it. We're starting to send in tonight. The first ones are going out the door for our current clients, going straight to Amazon to object to the whole complaint. And we're hopeful that'll be successful.
Now, it's just an email address that anybody can send it to. Can I or anyone just try to dispute it? Because they don't really give you the information of why you're infringing. So how can you dispute something if you don't have that information?
Well, you can. I don't recommend it. I recommend anyone who's writing anything, you have to know intellectual property law in order to know that there's no violation. I'm happy to give the basics to your listeners. Copyright is what someone created. It's writing or a picture, and you take it and you use it without their permission. You can't copy someone's verbiage or use someone else's photographs. They own it. Okay, trademark is taking the Nike swoosh or the M&M McDonald's or the K&K Mart and sticking it on your hat. That's basic trademark law. A patent is a license it's an invention. And you get a license from the government that you're the only person, the only company allowed to sell that new device for a certain period of time. And trade dress is basically like trademark with the same color scheme and same label and things that make it look alike, but there hasn't been a filing yet. So I guess if you know intellectual property law, then you can write it yourself. If you don't, then if you're not doing it yourself, you have to use a lawyer. If anyone is writing things having to do with intellectual property law and they're not a licensed lawyer in some federal court somewhere, in the United States, you shouldn't be paying them. It certainly doesn't have to be me, but nobody should be paying an Amazon consultant who's not a lawyer to deal with intellectual property rights, because you have to know the law in order to write why you did not violate the law. So you can do it yourself, and I'm happy to help people do it themselves. But if you are hiring someone to help you, you got to have someone who knows IP law.
Right, and no attorney is going to respond to a non-attorney. Also, I think.
We generally see that where we get responses where our clients got silence, or we get negotiations where our clients were told to go jump in a lake, because we can call them to the carpet and say, you know what, I know your complaint is baseless. I know it, and now you know it, and my client's no longer standing alone. So you have a choice to make. You can withdraw it, okay, or you're putting your behind on the line. And in every state in the country, every state, lawyers have ethical obligations not to maintain frivolous cases. So you put them on the line. And the same thing with brand managers and people who are outside consultants for these brands and brand protection or whatever they want to call themselves. Once you call them to the carpet, now they have a reason to withdraw that complaint. So, we stand with sellers. That's what we do.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask something about ethical obligation. Does a lawyer have to respond? Like if or is silence alone a reason to accuse them of violating their ethical obligation?
Well, yes and no. Lawyers have an obligation to respond to their clients and to the court. And I'm not sure if the ethical rules require them to respond to other attorneys. Okay. Also, what lawyers are facing is the number one cause of complaints against lawyers is not responding. Okay. So when you put those two things together, lawyers generally respond to other attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Also, unfortunately, we've had to take the ethical rules and send them to lawyers and say, listen, buddy, here's the ethical rule in Oregon. Okay. And if you don't respond to me, you're going to compel me to make a complaint about you. And I don't want to do that. All you got to do is call back. And this will work to any lawyer. No lawyer wants to even the threat or the thought that someone's going to make a complaint against him. So we generally get responses on, I can't think of one where we did not get a response. Sometimes it takes a bit more time, but unfortunately, lawyers generally respond to other lawyers more often than they respond to non-attorneys.
What do you make of these brand enforcers? It seems like it's just two guys sitting in a basement with no name. Nameless.
Right.
And they're representing, you can't find their website. And they're representing like Major League Baseball. And like, what's up with that?
Well, I'm not going to comment for a particular reason for several clients about Major League Baseball. Okay. But let's take other brand protection guys. It's like a cottage industry. That's like everything else. It developed out of a perceived need. So you have brands that are complaining that their products are being sold on Amazon and eBay. And so people pitch them, say, hey, I'll try and knock them off. And there are several that have kind of gone through the ringer where they've pitched to manufacturers. Manufacturers have said yes. They've asserted baseless complaints. I've then gotten them withdrawn. And those same companies have come to me and say, is there anything we can do? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there's not. So that's the whole cottage industry. And I do think that right now it's still such an immature industry that there are like two guys in the basement on one block and another guy working out of his mother's garage in another, and they're asserting baseless complaints. And finally now Amazon is actually giving something to the sellers and give us an avenue to point out to them why it's so baseless.
I find it amazing how, for the past year, anybody with an email address can just fill out the right forms for Amazon, say that this person's infringing. Amazon suspends and wreck this guy's life.
Yeah, they're putting us out of business from time to time. They're stopping, and it's worse because they not only stop your sales, they hold back your money that you earned last week.
Right.
So it's awful. And you're right. Anyone with an email address, anyone who can pretend to use someone else's email address, competitors, all these things go on. All of them go on. But now, as a seller, you have even more hope and a more efficient way of addressing it. We really, really hope Amazon staffed it with some good people. Again, it's only a couple of days. But we're very, very hopeful. It's just another avenue. And we're doing both simultaneously. We're not waiting on an email to Amazon. At the same exact time, simultaneously, we're reaching out to the people that made the complaints and continuously getting them to withdraw and getting reinstated that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what else? Anything else going on in suspension world?
In suspension world, we're seeing even more. We talked, I think, a couple of weeks ago. The suspensions at that time were ramping up, but the reinstatements were also coming very quick. And that's still going on. Our phones are ringing off the hook. I guess it was Friday was the very first day that I was unable to return all of my calls on the very same day. We're back online and we're getting back to everybody, same day or at worst the next day. But the suspensions continue to fly in, but so do the reinstatements. So I do think Amazon is doing a couple of good things, and Amazon does do some really good things, is that they must have assigned a lot more people, well, most of them are in India, to deal with the suspensions. We're also continuing to get more and more focused follow-up questions from Amazon. And another thing that's come up very, very recently are these things with the sanctions. I know Kelly Johnston touched upon it the other day. We're now seeing that also. And they seem to be pretty simple. I mean, if you just look at the law behind the sanctions, I can't imagine anyone's violating it. Okay. No one's buying anything from the wrong Korea. Okay. No one's selling anything to that regime. But again, you need to really be able to read the treaty, understand what the sanctions address, and then address it to show Amazon there's absolutely no violation of the sanctions.
So why wouldn't Amazon just take down the listing?
Well, I believe they are taking down certain listings, but some of the products that are coming out will have different, made in stickers.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is also something that's fairly new. I hadn't seen a sanction suspension. I don't even know when the last time was, and now all of a sudden we're seeing them again. But it's a pretty easy remedy as long as you can read and write what the sanctions are, who they apply to. It's a pretty easy thing to remedy. It's stressful. It's November. It's the Christmas season. But this is a type of suspension that should be resolved very quickly.
Right. You just take off the sticker or something, or just tell them.
You don't even have to. Nobody's violating these international sanctions. At least not that I haven't seen any real violation. You just have to explain to someone what the law is and that you're not violating it.
Right. I also saw a lot of just like not random, but it seemed like automatic generated infringements without actually saying which ASINs are infringing. And it said something that you're continuing to violate somebody's rights owners' complaints.
Yeah, I'm seeing those also with no complainant, with no like brand protection at Samsung, no brand protection at Apple, just coming from Amazon. And the language is very, very similar to their general, inauthentic nonsense. So that's how we're treating it. And we've been successful at getting reinstatements to show it's an authentic item. Here's the chain of custody of where we obtained the products from. It's not violating anybody's rights because it's a real product.
Right, but they don't even say what product. They just say you continue to violate intellectual property. And I think those have to do with previous notifications that were not dealt with, and I think the items were not deleted.
I haven't seen those. The ones we're seeing are either it's identifying the product or it's a seller who's selling a limited number of products, and they're easily addressed. But I think you're right. Now with the whole new health dashboard, it could be addressing it. We've always recommended that if you have any IP issues, you should clean them up. You may not have to do it today, but you should certainly get the ball rolling to get those complainants to withdraw those complaints so they're not warts on your account that can have a problem later.
Right. A lot of those Apple cases which hit a dead end may be worth a shot now through this dispute resolution email.
That's a really good thought. I hadn't thought about that. I don't pretend to know everything. I think that's a great idea. And I may now reach out to our Apple clients and say, hey, listen, why don't we give it another shot? Do I think Amazon is going to reverse something that protected Apple? I don't know, but it's certainly worth a shot.
I mean, sometimes it's not even Apple products. It's just like an Apple Word or something.
Yeah, it's the compatible with, fits Apple. We even had one about an iPhone case, and you've been saying iPhone cases without any problem, since the iPhones came out. We were able to get that reinstatement. But yeah, this could be a good shot for those. I mean, if you've hit a brick wall on other issues with intellectual property rights or rights owner complaints, now might be the time to jump back in and try to get those withdrawn.
We'll see if Apple responds now. Okay, CJ, anything in closing you'd like to add?
No, I just think it's one more way of getting your accounts reinstated and defending yourselves against a lot of these bogus rights owner complaints. I think it's a really great move. Listen, my job is to get you back online, back to selling, give you hope, get you back to making money. And this is just another arrow in the quiver that we can work faster, more efficiently. And now you have someone, at Amazon also evaluating these things. So I think that's just a really, really positive thing for sellers.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. And we have to see how it shakes out. See if anybody responds or see if anybody's home.
So maybe in a week or so we check back and we'll loop around. I'll let you know about our successes.
Right. I mean, my gun to my head, I say, unless it's a slam dunk, they're not going to reinstate you without. In other words, if they could even be using this data just to see who the troublemakers are, and if they get the same, which is also good to see if the
Amazon
same.
is also Amazon's also putting themselves now in the middle. You know, even though your contract with Amazon about how to sell is incredibly one-sided. Okay, I mean the contract it got more and more and more awful over time. It's so one-sided that it's probably unenforceable if it's ever challenged. But now Amazon's taken a step further, and they're now getting right in the middle of the dispute. So that also puts them, under the law, in the position of having to do what's called good faith and fair dealing. So if it's a clearly baseless complaint and you show it to them, they kind of have a legal obligation to put you back on because they now have taken on the role as the arbiter. And you can't do that unless you do it in good faith.
Right. So, yeah. So
I think it's a host of different levels. I think it's just a really good positive aspect. I think Amazon has finally listened to people like you and people like me and other people who deal with intellectual property issues and say you lack a gatekeeper. You're not dividing the pure versus claims that might have some merit. And now they've jumped into that realm. And
right.
so now they have certain obligations. I think it's a really great thing for us.
Yeah. Okay, CJ, I really appreciate it. And like always, we'll keep in touch.
Great. And thank you very much.
All right. Bye.